Week 2, Day 2 of Formula 1 2019 testing, just 2 days left, and then the next official Formula 1 session is the Melbourne Practice 1. Brilliant stuff, cannot wait, but we've still got testing to talk about. There's still a few more days, and still a lot can change, and a lot can happen that's going to shape the rest of the season. Few big talking points to talk about today. Obviously, we'll go through our rundown of the times today, the laps, all that sort of good stuff, and then later on we'll discuss the goings-on of today. If you were over on the F1 Word this morning, you may have heard my voice. I'm very sorry for that. I was streaming with Sean for the morning session, so I got a unique insight into the world of Formula 1 through that. I mean, a crazy session ended in a bizarre fashion for a certain Sebastian Vettel. We'll talk about that for sure a little bit later on, but it was a lot of fun. So I just wanted to say, to start this one off, thank you, Sean, for having me once again. We're talking all things Formula 1, Nesquik, and even Tim Tams. So for whoever wanted me to talk about Tim Tams in this video, there you go, that's for you. But let's move on then to today's session. Yesterday, I spoke about teams that I think really need to start pushing on now, and once again I singled out Racing Point, who I've put in the thumbnail there. I think they're a team that historically haven't really jumped into testing full beans, and this year they've not done that once again. And a lot of people have said, well, it's what Force India did, you should expect it to be the same with Racing Point, but I still feel that even though this new backing, it's not going to be instant change, I still feel, comparing it to teams like Williams, who have, yesterday and now today, spoiler alert, done over 100 laps, Racing Point were a team going into today that I was thinking they are going to have to really shine. Yesterday they were third in the times, and today they went one better. Ending up P2 overall with Sergio Perez, 88 laps completed, so apart from Ferrari, did the least of any team. Again, there will be concerns with that. I can't deny that. That is still a glaring issue from Racing Point. And you look at teams like Williams, who have done 130. That's about 50 laps more by Williams. So at this rate, Williams actually aren't going to be that many laps behind Racing Point come Friday if we continue this same sort of trend. But at the top, the big name, Carlos Sainz, in the McLaren, they top times again. McLaren 2 days in a row, topping winter testing with the fastest lap of all of winter testing last week and this week with a 1:17.1 from Sainz on the C4 tyre as well. Really good job from Carlos, 130 laps completed. Another really good day for McLaren. Did cause a red flag early on. That was about 2 hours into the morning session. Stopped at the end of the pit lane. Very similar incident that he had on, I believe it was day 1 of testing last week, but no major issues. Was out very, very quickly straight after. Sebastian Vettel was behind Perez. We quickly spoke about Perez, but 40 laps for Vettel. That has been one of the, well, what happened today with Vettel is one of the biggest talking points we've seen in testing for both weeks, and probably the biggest story we've seen for Formula 1 all season so far. So we're definitely going to jump into that in a little bit more detail after we've gone through the time. So only 40 laps for Ferrari, which they've been pretty close to Mercedes, but today they might as well have written off the entire day, which third overall in the times doesn't look too bad, but really when you look into today, Ferrari won't be happy with it. And Vettel did crash. I will throw that out there before we jump into it majorly, but they weren't able to get out in the afternoon session. So Charles Leclerc was supposed to be in the car, but as you can see, he's not on the timing sessions. He didn't do a single lap, so yeah, not a great day for Ferrari. Kimi Raikkonen, Alfa Romeo, another heap of laps, 113 on the C4 tyres with a 1:18.2. Grosjean, 120 laps on the C5 tyres, a 1:18.3. However, he was on the C2 tyres and he had done a 1:18.5, I believe it was. So I don't really know how representative that lap is on the C5 tyres. Verstappen in the Red Bull, 128 laps. Another really good job from Max. He also came to a stop like Sainz. There were 3 red flags in the morning, and Verstappen's lap was Verstappen's incident, was very, very similar to Carlos Sainz. He was out pretty soon after as well, so I'm pretty sure they'll be happy with that. Danny Kvyat, 101 laps on the C3 tyres, was able to get a 1:18.6. I will just say, these tyres I'm saying, I have to keep saying this, do not worry if you're getting confused about the numbers. This won't be an issue come Australia. I don't even think I will bother knowing which is the C1, the C2 or the C3 by the time we get to Melbourne. But if you do need more, I suppose, clarity on that, put it down in the comments and I'll try my best to respond as quickly as possible. Moving on from Kvyat, it was Bottas and then Hamilton. Bottas 74 laps, Hamilton 101, so 175 for Mercedes. A really good job from those two. Timings, nothing special, both on the C3 tyres, an 18.9 for Bottas and 18.9 for Hamilton. Just 2,000 splitting the two of them, but for them, plenty of laps in the car today. They're both going to be chuffed with that, I imagine, and with all the aero upgrades they've had this week, I'm pretty sure Mercedes have gained a good amount of time on Ferrari with the upgrades they've had. So I think they seem very positive this week, which is great to see, because last week they seemed a little bit unoptimistic, I would say. So good stuff for the Silver Arrows. Hulkenberg was behind Hamilton. Only 57 laps completed for Nico in the morning. C3 tyres and 119.0. Robert Kubica, 130 laps for the Polishman. The most of anyone today, joint with Carlos Sainz, but a really good job from Kubica. On the C4 tyres, he got his fastest lap, a 119.3, which isn't ideal that it's on the C4 tyre, but it proves that they're not miles and miles away. Daniel Ricciardo, 72 laps on the C2 tyres. His fastest lap was a 1:22, but we've seen in testing before that he can go quicker than that. So any Ricciardo fans, do not worry. I know this morning people were questioning, oh, why is Ricciardo so slow? But that is generally why. It was just the fact he didn't put any quick laps at all. So a positive day for Renault, actually, a positive day for most of the teams on the grid, actually. We saw a few spins here, there and everywhere, which we always do, a few red flags more than normal, but as I mentioned, the big talking point we first need to cover is Ferrari, is Sebastian Vettel. A bizarre crash that still we haven't really seen any footage of this crash so far, so we can only read into some of the images we have seen. So we are hoping that later on today, when Formula One put out their official highlights for today's testing, we'll see some footage of the incident. But how it went down, Sebastian Vettel, turn 1, fine, turn 2, fine, but the big long right-hander that is turn 3, which usually is just completely flat-out corner, completely foot to the floor, suddenly lost it halfway through the corner. And the car straightened up. He went straight off mid-corner onto the outside barrier, straight through the gravel, no sort of twitching movement. Even the markings in the gravel were just straight. So something really strange must have happened there, and clearly indicates that it wasn't a mistake from Sebastian. Ferrari have come out since and said it was some sort of technical fault. Knowing Ferrari, we're not going to get much more information than that, but a bizarre incident straight into the wall, and first, big question marks on if he was okay. Huge incident it looked like on the initial photos. We found out very shortly afterwards that Seb was fine, which is great to hear. How about the car? The car was stuck in the barrier for 40 minutes. We had to wait for the marshals to wrestle that thing out of the Armco. Eventually they were able to do it. Eventually we got going again, but first reports said, oh, Seb will be out, Seb won't be taking part for the rest of the morning, but Leclerc will be out pretty early on in the afternoon. But as the afternoon dragged on, it was less and less likely, and we saw more images of Seb's crash. It seemed like there had been some damage to the side pod, which people didn't initially spot. It seemed as well that the floor had been damaged. Reports that the marshals putting it on the truck almost dropped the car. Craziness. But the end result was that they weren't able to get the car out again. So just 40 laps for Ferrari is a major shock. And, well, it was the biggest, like I say, the biggest incident we've seen in testing so far. And actually, on the whole, apart from Gasly's crash, apart from Vettel's crash today, we've had pretty clean running so far for testing. So, completely out of the ordinary crash for Vettel. It's definitely one that you'd rather it happen now in testing, but I think if I'm being honest, you'd rather it not happen whatsoever. Big question marks at Ferrari over this one. Just great that Seb is out the car. Great that he's fine. But looking into the last 2 days, I don't think they need to worry too much Racing Point for me are still the team I want to see a little bit more from. That is it for today. Just 2 days to go for winter testing. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.